If you've ever overheard something that shattered your sense of belonging, especially from people who smile at you when you're in the room, this story may stay with you. Subscribe for more stories of quiet betrayal and unexpected strength, and comment below. Have you ever heard the truth only because someone didn't know you were listening? My name is Marcus, and for the last 8 years, I've believed in one thing: keep the peace. Not because I'm passive, because I know what it's like to grow up in a house where no one did. So when I married on my wife, my best friend, the mother of our 2 boys, promised myself I'd never be the man who raised his voice just to feel powerful, especially not around her family. Her mother never liked me. That much was clear from the beginning. She said I lacked ambition, that my hands were too calloused, and once after too much wine told Anna she should have married the son of her dentist instead. We let it go. I let it go, because love is louder, right? Until that Tuesday afternoon, when love got quiet. Anna had taken the boys over to her mother's for a midweek visit. She was helping her with some errands, planning a surprise for her sister's birthday. I got off work early. Mechanic shop closed an hour sooner than expected. Hey, I'll swing by to pick you and the kids up. Don't rush, I'll wait in the car. She didn't answer. I figured she was busy. I drove over, parked at the curb. It was late spring, the kind of day where the air feels like it's still making up its mind. Sunlight coming through the trees in patches, birds playing tag in the hedges. I got out of the car, stretched my back, and figured I'd take a slow walk up the drive just to knock. Let them know I was there. That's when I heard it. The window near the porch was cracked open, just enough, and her voice, her mother's, carried through it like wind with a knife in it. He's a good father, sure, but is that really enough? Silence, then another voice, Anna's. I don't know anymore, Mom. Sometimes I wonder. My feet froze. I didn't want to hear more, but I couldn't move. You settled, sweetheart. You know you did. That house, those bills, that man, he fixes cars for a living. You could have had something more. He tries so hard, Anna said softly. Trying isn't succeeding, her mother shot back. You used to dream bigger. What happened to that? Silence again, longer this time than Anna, quieter than I'd ever heard her. Maybe I stopped believing I deserved more. I didn't knock. I didn't open the gate. I turned around, walked back to the car like the driveway had grown longer, heavier, sat behind the wheel with both hands gripping the steering like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. They didn't know I'd heard. They wouldn't know, not that day. That night, she came home like nothing had happened. The boys were bouncing with sugar from cookies. Grandma let them eat. Anna smiled, kissed my cheek. I smiled back. Because sometimes a man doesn't react right away, not out of weakness, but because something inside him is recalibrating. Shifting. Quietly. I didn't mention the conversation. Not at dinner, not in bed, not even when she laid her head on my chest like she always did. But something had shifted in me. A part I had kept hidden under provide, protect, love. It stirred, not with anger, with clarity. I'd spent 8 years building a life I thought was strong, but strength built only on silence becomes a house of glass. And that night, I started sketching out something new. Not a reaction, not revenge, a return to self. Because if the woman I loved was doubting me, and the mother who never believed in me finally said it out loud, then Maybe it was time to stop trying to be enough for people who never saw my value. Maybe it was time to show them who I am when I'm done being polite. Asterisk, I didn't sleep that night. Not out of anger, not even confusion. What kept me up was the clarity, like hearing her say those words. Sometimes, I wonder, flipped a switch I didn't know I'd been holding down for years. It was like someone wiped the fog off a mirror. And for the first time, I saw not just myself, but everything I'd been trying to protect, and how much of me I'd traded to keep the peace. The next morning, Anna made coffee like usual. She hummed while packing the boys' lunches, folded the napkins, with little notes the way she always did. I watched her from across the kitchen, every movement familiar, even tender, but my heart stayed still, not cold, just watching. And for the first time in a long time, I wondered, when did I stop being a husband she chose and become just the man who shows up on time? I went to work at the shop, fixed a transmission, replaced a water pump, talked a customer out of a repair he didn't really need. Then, during my lunch break, I pulled out a notebook and started writing not a letter, just a list, not of the things I'd done wrong, but the things I'd done right. Paid every bill on time, never missed a birthday, built our back deck with my own hands, stayed up 3 nights in a row when the baby had colic, took her car in 4 oil changes without being asked, said I love you even when she forgot to say it back, page after page, not for proof, but for me, because before I could let her words define me, I needed to remember who I was outside of them. That weekend, I got up before everyone else, didn't leave a note, didn't slam the door. I drove 3 hours to a cabin I hadn't been to in years, my uncle's place in the hills. No Wi-Fi, no distractions, just wood, wind, and work to do. I stayed 2 days, chopped firewood, walked under the trees, read an old book, cover to cover. And somewhere between the crackle of the fireplace and the silence of my phone not ringing, I heard something I hadn't heard in a long time. My own voice. It didn't say much, but it was mine. When I came home, Anna hugged me at the door. Where were you? She asked. Where I needed to be, I said. She didn't press, but she looked at me differently. Not suspicious, not cold, just uncertain. Like she was finally realizing the version of me she had safely assumed would always be waiting, might not wait forever. I didn't pull away from her, but I didn't fall back in line either. The next few weeks, I started doing things I used to put off. I signed up for the welding course I kept saying I didn't have time for. I took our boys camping, just the 3 of us, without asking permission. I started waking up earlier, not to work, but to write, every morning, 1 page, about the man I wanted to become, not the one she expected or her mother tolerated, but the one I'd forgotten in the effort to be good enough. One night, Anna came into the garage while I was under the hood of an old 1989 Ford. She stood beside me for a long time before speaking. You've changed. I didn't look up. Maybe, I said, or maybe I just stopped hiding. She leaned against the workbench, arms crossed. Is this because of what I said at Mom's? Now I looked at her. You mean what I wasn't supposed to hear? Her eyes fell. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. Then how did you mean it, Anna? I asked, quietly. That you wonder if I'm enough, that you settled. She didn't answer. I wiped my hands on a towel. You're allowed to have doubts. but you don't get to hide them behind my back. Not when I've been giving you everything I had." She blinked hard. "I didn't know you heard." "I know." She stepped forward, but I stepped back, not out of spite, out of space, the kind I needed to breathe again. That night, she didn't sleep in our bed. I didn't ask her to, and still, no fighting, no drama, just a quiet shift in gravity neither of us could ignore anymore. 2 days later, I picked up the boys from school. We stopped for milkshakes, sat on the hood of my truck, watched the sunset in silence. My oldest leaned his head against my arm. "Mom said you might not be happy," he said, voice soft. I looked at him. "I'm learning what happy means, buddy." "Does it mean you'll leave?" I shook my head. "It means I'll stop pretending." He didn't ask more. He just kept sipping his milkshake. Back home, I opened the front door and saw something I hadn't seen in a long time. Anna at the dining table, looking at Mirali, looking with eyes that didn't beg for reassurance, but asked for honesty. "Can we talk?" she said. "Tomorrow," I replied. "Tonight, I just want to be with my kids." She nodded. For once, she understood the boundary. That night, after they were asleep, I wrote in my journal, "You can love someone deeply and still realize you lost yourself trying to be what they needed. But when you remember who you are, that's when they finally see you." The next morning, I woke up before the sun. I sat at the kitchen table, same seat I'd always used, but something about the air felt different. Like the walls had finally stopped expecting me to hold everything together. Like they knew I'd stepped out of the script. I heard Anna's footsteps before I saw her. She came down the stairs in the sweater I gave her 3 birthdays ago. The one with the fraying sleeve and the faint scent of lavender she always wore to bed when we were still good at being gentle. She didn't speak at first, just stood there, hands wrapped around a mug of tea, like she was waiting for the floor to tell her what to say. "I've been thinking," she said. "So have I," I replied. She sat across from me, eyes darker than usual. Not from makeup or lack of sleep, but from the weight of things unsaid. Then, softly, almost like a child, "Do you still love me?" The words landed like a dropped plate in a quiet room. I looked at her, not through her, not past her, at her. The woman I married 8 years ago. The girl who once kissed me on the hood of a beat-up Honda and said I made her feel safe. The wife who fell asleep mid-sentence more times than I could count, because she trusted me to carry the rest of her thoughts. The mother of my boys, and the woman who, weeks earlier, said she wondered if I was enough. I didn't answer right away, because love isn't a light switch, it's a ledger, a series of moments recorded, erased, rewritten. It's the sound of keys tossed on a counter, the weight of "how was your day," the ache of being unseen in a room you helped build. I reached for my coffee, took a sip, and told the truth. "I do," I said, "but not in the way I used to." Her eyebrows pulled together. "What does that mean?" "It means I love you enough not to lie, enough not to pretend. We're fine just because we don't raise our voices enough to tell you that. I've spent too long trying to be worthy of someone who was never sure I was." She flinched, but didn't argue. "I thought I was doing the right thing," she whispered. "So did I." We sat in silence, to people who had built a life together, realizing they had laid the foundation with different bricks. She looked up, tears in her eyes, not because she was broken, because she was beginning to see what it cost us to look like we were okay. I don't know who I am without my mother's voice in my head, she said. She made me think settling was failure, that choosing comfort over ambition was weakness. And when you didn't fight for more money position, a bigger house, I thought maybe you weren't strong. I was strong, I said. She nodded. I know that now. And you? I asked. She took a long breath. I was scared that I'd wake up and wonder if this life was all there'd ever be. Is that what you still feel? She didn't answer, but her silence was honest. I stood, not in anger, in peace, and said what I never thought I'd say, not because I didn't believe it, but because I thought saying it out loud might crack the ground we both stood on. I think we forgot how to love each other forward, Anna. We got stuck loving the versions of each other that don't exist anymore. She looked at me like she wanted to grab that sentence and tape it back together. But we have kids, she said, like it was a lifeline. I know, and we're not bad. No, I said, but we're not growing. And if we're not growing, we're repeating. And I won't raise our boys to think repetition is the same as love. She cried then, not the loud, dramatic kind, the quiet sob that comes when you realize the life you built is still standing, but the doors are locked and no one remembers where they left the key. I reached across the table, took her hand, warm, familiar. I'm not walking out, I said, but I am walking forward. The next few weeks were strange. We started talking more, but not like before. No small talk, no pretending, just real conversations. Some nights we sat on the porch in silence. Other nights we said everything we'd stuffed into drawers and behind. Polite smiles. For years she apologized. So did I. But apologies aren't endings. They're pauses, places to take a breath before choosing what comes next. Then came the question I hadn't expected. It was late, boys asleep, dishes washed. I was folding laundry when she leaned against the doorframe and asked, "Do you want a new start, or do you want out?" I looked up, not surprised, not scared, just ready. "I want to build something honest," I said. "If that means starting over together, I'm in. But only if we both want to build, not salvage." She nodded. That was the moment everything began to shift. Not back to what we were, but toward something we'd never allowed ourselves to become. We started counseling, separate at first, then together. She called her mother less, stopped asking for her opinions on things she should have been deciding for herself. I started saying no to overworking, no to apologizing for choosing a quiet life, no to carrying all the weight just because I looked like I could. And in that space between no and yes, we found us again, different, scarred but honest. One morning she brought me coffee in the garage. No makeup, just her and her bare face and that sweater again. "I miss us," she said. I smiled. "We're not gone, just changing altitude." She laughed through her tears. "Is it okay if I relearn how to love you, as long as I get to do the same?" It happened on a Sunday. We had just come back from church. The boys were in the backyard, chasing each other barefoot across the grass, their laughter echoing off the fence posts. The kind of sound that could soften even the hardest of days. Anna was inside, helping her mom prep lunch. Yes, her mom was over. She'd been invited by Anna, not me, and to be honest, I didn't fight it, because something in Anna had changed these past few weeks, quietly, slowly, like spring thawing through the cracks of a long, hard winter. We'd been rebuilding. Not rushing it, not painting over the cracks, just choosing each other again, one honest day at a time. And this was part of it. So I stayed outside, sweeping the patio, pretending not to hear their voices drifting through the screen door, until I did. Her mother's voice, sharp, still coated in that casual condescension that always sounded like concern on the surface. I just don't understand why you're still letting him lead this family when he clearly has no ambition. A man who works with his hands all day is not a man who's going anywhere. Silence. I froze, broom in hand. I didn't expect Anna to say anything. She never had before. Not really. She always changed the subject, or defended me with soft phrases, like he's doing his best, or he's a great dad, as if that excused the rest. But this time, she didn't deflect. She rose. Her voice came low, calm, dangerously so. Mom, don't ever speak about Marcus like that in this house again. I'm just trying to be honest. No, Anna cut her off. You're trying to measure my husband by a scale he never agreed to. You think success is in suits and salaries. I used to think that too, because you taught me that. You taught me to look down on men like my father, and then you looked down on the man I chose to love, and I let you. Her voice broke for a second, then steadied. But I see him now, really see him. And you know what I see? A man who wakes up before everyone else. A man who makes our boys feel safe. A man who fixed more than our car and our leaky sink. He fixed me when I didn't even realize I was broken. Another pause. So if you can't speak of him with respect, you don't need to speak about him at all. I didn't move. COULDN. Single quotes. It was the kind of moment you don't interrupt, even when it has your name on it. When I finally stepped inside, her mother was in the dining room, quiet, folding napkins with too much focus. Anna was in the kitchen, eyes wet, shoulders steady. She looked up as I walked in. I didn't say anything. I just opened my arms, and she walked into them. No questions, no explanations, just presence. The kind that says, I see you now. After lunch, her mom left early. No scene, no insults. Just a long look at me as she picked up her bag. I didn't return it with anything smug, just a nod. Because this wasn't a win, it was a shift. The end of a silence that never protected anyone, only prolonged the pain. That night, Anna sat beside me on the porch swing. She reached for my hand. I should have stood up for you years ago, she whispered. I shook my head. You did it when it mattered. She looked down at our fingers, laced together like roots. I've spent so long trying to please her, trying to prove I didn't mess up by choosing you, and now. She looked at me. I don't care what she thinks anymore. I only care what we build from here. We sat like that for a long time. No need for fireworks, just a quiet return to something truer than we'd allowed ourselves to hope for at one point. The boys came outside in their pajamas, laughing about something only siblings understand. They climbed onto the swing with oos wrapping around our legs, tugging at our shirts. Is Mommy happy now? Our youngest asked. Anna smiled. Yeah, baby, she said. Mommy's finally learning how to be. Later that night, she placed something in my lap, a small box, inside a new ring, simple, strong, silver with brushed edges. I looked up at her. I've always had a ring, I said, half laughing. She shook her head. This one isn't for the man I married, she said. It's for the man I finally see. I slid it on. It fit, like everything was starting to. I stood in the driveway one afternoon, watching my two boys wrestle in the grass. Their laughter bounced off the house, wild and unfiltered. The younger one was losing, but he didn't care. The older one kept trying to play fair, even when he had the upper hand. I could see pieces of Anna in their eyes. I could see me in the way they showed up tough, but soft in the right places. And I thought, one day they'll be men. One day they'll have jobs, partners, maybe kids of their own. And they'll remember me not for the money I made, not for the cars I fixed or the tools I kept too long, but for the way I showed up. They'll remember I came home every night, that I said I love you when no one prompted me to, that I folded towels, packed lunches, carried their sleeping bodies from the back seat to their beds. Even when my back ached from 10 hours under the hood of a truck, they'll remember how I made pancakes on Saturdays, burnt the first batch, laughed it off. They'll remember that I stayed, even when staying meant confronting things that hurt. The truth is, I spent too long trying to be a man my wife's mother would respect, too long letting good enough mean silent enough. But something changed the day I heard those words through the window. Something broke, and then something began. Anna and I didn't become perfect after that. We still argued about grocery lists, schedules, bedtimes. But now, we spoke with our eyes open. We no longer tiptoed around old fears or hidden doubts. We faced them together. She stopped asking her mother for advice about things only she should decide. I stopped apologizing for being a man with calloused hands and a quiet voice. And somewhere in that middle ground, we rediscovered each other, not as we were, but as we chose to be. A few weeks later, I was dropping the boys off at school when the older one said something I'll never forget. He looked at me serious, like only a 7-year-old trying to be brave can be, and said, "Dad, when I grow up, I want to be like you." I blinked, swallowed the lump in my throat. Why is that? Because you fix stuff, not just cars. People, too. Like when mommy cries. I didn't answer right away. I just reached back, touched his knee. "Thanks, buddy," I said. "That means more than you know." And it did, because in that moment, I realized that's the man I want to be remembered as. Not the one with the best title, not the richest, not the loudest in the room, but the one who healed what he touched, even when it took time, even when it meant starting from zero, even when no one clapped. I came home that night and found Anna on the couch, curled up in the same old sweater. I sat next to her. She leaned in without asking. We didn't say much because we didn't need to. We had already said what mattered. I still see you. I still choose you. And I still want to build with you. So if you're hearing this, and you've ever been the one who stayed quiet to keep the peace, if you've ever overheard something that nearly shattered your sense of worth, if you've ever questioned your place in a room full of people you love, I hope you remember this. You don't have to prove your value to people who never learned how to see it. You just have to live it every day and let the people who matter feel it in your words, in your silence, in the way you show up again and again. Not for applause, not for power, but for presence. Because sometimes the greatest legacy is not what we leave behind. It's who we become in front of the ones who will carry our name forward. And if my boys remember me as the man who stayed, who listened, who healed what was breaking, then I'll know I didn't just fix engines. I built a life.